couple of the basics, some terminology, show you one of my tracking tools, and all this is going to apply to humans, but it can be applied to animals as well. A big difference between the two is humans, they're usually predictable. You can kind of figure out, what direction they might be heading and why, and so on and so forth. You can do the same for animals, but more often than not, they change their patterns all the time. If you're a hunter, you know that, all too well. They may come into the field in this corner one night, you set up there the next day, and they come in from a different direction for whatever reason. More often than not, that usually depends on the wind. They like to play the wind a lot, especially the white-tailed deer. So hopefully you guys will be able to see this. All I did just behind me is I walked at a regular pace to hopefully show you guys some prints and get some different ideas and what's going on with the prints from the way it is. So give me a second to readjust the camera, and we'll take a look at that. Alright, so what we have here again is just a set of tracks I made at a normal walk. You can see I got one here. Here's my pointer. One here, one up here, and they just continue on. First off, this is just a 3/8 wooden dowel I picked up at Home Depot. Bring it in a little closer for you. And what I did from one end, it's a 3-foot piece of 3/8 wooden dowel. I've got these black bands here. All they are is, elastics that females use in their hair. And you can slide them up and down here with no problem. A regular elastic band, Ranger bands, you don't really need the dowel. You could use a straight branch if you found one. But what I've done was I measured off in inches up to 14 inches. And what that's going to do for me is help me measure the footprints when I come across them. And then with the second, from the end to the first one, I can measure the actual size of the track. And then with the second one, you want to measure same to same, so left foot to left foot, and right foot to right foot, whatever the case may be, and either front of the track to the front of the track or the rear to the rear. Pretty self-explanatory. And you would slide your second band up to wherever that next track was, and that would give you the stride of the person. So let's take a look at this and see what we come up with, if I can even see in the frame here. Alright, so I got a left foot back here. The first thing I'd want to do is actually measure the print. So from there to there, right to the edge of it. Right now it's saying I've got it at 12 inches. My feet are nowhere near 12 inches. But you got to take into consideration what they're wearing for footwear, be it a boot, sneaker, or what have you. You need to compensate for that and understand that, with a boot, depending on the type, you could be anywhere from 3/4 of an inch to 1.5 inches difference in foot size. So that's just something to keep in mind. So I've measured the overall footprint. The other thing I'd want to measure is the width on the front of the print and the rear. I'd also want to measure from the back of the heel to where the arch in the foot stops. And depending on what type brand footwear, if it's a boot or whatever, the heels pretty much will stand right out to you. So that's the first thing I've done. I've come across it. I've measured my footprint, so I'm good to go. If you can get any pattern on the bottom of the print, you'd want to jot that down, maybe draw yourself a little picture of it. Actually take a picture if you had a camera, so you can get the detailed print of that boot. So as you're following this track, if you come across another one, you can easily determine, hey, that this isn't the one that we're tracking. It's this pattern sole. You know, again, pretty self-explanatory. So now I have a left foot here, then obviously my right, and then I got another left foot up here. So my stride, again, I'm going to go same to same. So I'll go from the front of this one actually, let me backtrack. I messed up on that. The stride is between 2 feet and it's the same. So if you go from the rear of the print, you do the same within your next print. So I got a left and a right here. So I'm going to go from the heel to heel, same to same. Slide my little band up to the next heel. That gives you your stride. Now what that can do for you is go to your next print. Right there is roughly the same. It's going to vary a little bit between your left and your right foot stride because, you know, everybody has a dominant side and you tend to stride out, you know, with your strong side a little bit more. So, but they're pretty close. My left to my right, right there, and then my right to my left is actually a little bit shorter, but it's pretty much right there as well. And you just keep doing that. Go to my next print, heel to heel, and again I'm right on. Now, what a stride can do for you is it can tell you several things. Sometimes the height of the individual, if you're getting into some forensics type stuff, and you can figure that stuff out. But it can also tell you, you know, what's in the mind of the person you're tracking. If they've got a pretty normal stride, they're probably comfortable in their mind, you know, they're just walking, going about their normal business. A lot, usually if you're tracking like, you know, missing persons or something like that, you'll be following a track and it could be, you know, a normal stride at the beginning, and then you'll run into some choppy type steps and things like that. Maybe the footprints are, you know, sideways and so on and so forth. That could tell you a few things, like maybe they're realizing they're lost now, they're getting nervous, so they're taking choppy steps, not sure about what they're supposed to do next. So all that obviously comes with practice, and it depends on your situation, you know, and what type of person it is you're looking for, be it a fugitive, a missing persons, or, you know, anything like that. The next thing, let me adjust the camera for you guys. Alright, the next thing you can look for, we call it a straddle, and the sun's playing tricks on me, I'm not sure you guys can see this, but so I have a left footprint right here, and then I have a right footprint. So if you take any type of straight edge and you lay it from the inside of the left to the inside of the next left, or the right, just as long as they're the same, it doesn't really matter. So I've gone from the inside of my left to the inside of my next left, which leaves my right footprint right here. The straddle is the space that you have in between both sets of footprints, and all you would do is measure from the inside to the inside, and you'd write that down. And that would give you your straddle. So let's talk about the actual footprint a little bit more. Again, if I can get you guys to see this. Alright, so, yep, move the daggone camera on you. Alright, so let's talk about dynamics of a footprint. you have three parts to a footprint. The first one we call a primary impact point, which if you're walking normal and straight in a forward direction, I mean, your first primary impact point is your heel, because you walk from heel to toe normally. So you have your primary impact point being your heel. Then you have what we call a foot roll, and you can see it's the arch of your foot. You can see that's pretty pronounced right here. And then in the end you have your terminal point, which is your end point, obviously. And as you walk, you can see in the snow here, it kind of picked some snow up as I continued forward. Again, this is pretty broad. I know I'm like just throwing stuff out here. Again, this would take a lot of time to actually go through, every aspect of tracking, but I just wanted to touch on some of the basics for you guys. But again, this was a normal walk. I just walked normal. So again, dynamics of a footprint. We have a primary impact point being the heel, a foot roll, which is in the middle, and then our terminal point. And then you can see some brush off from my toe as I took my next step. And it'll continue to do that. If you get into, anti-tracking and stuff like that, people trying to elude you, one of the most famous ones, people try to walk backwards. If we stepped back and we looked at all my prints again, as I just did a normal walk, so my stride's consistent, my straddle is consistent, everything's the same, because I'm just walking normal. If you get into anti-tracking, like I'm saying, and somebody's trying to walk backwards on you, that's going to change, their pattern dramatically. And you'll be able to tell that very easily. The primary impact point then would obviously be the toe, because that's the first thing that's hitting as they're walking backwards. Their straddle would be choppy and all over the place, kind of irregular in pattern. And at the end, where your primary impact point would normally be in the heel, you'll get that same drag that you see here in the front of my foot. Whereas I took my next step, it kicked some snow up where my toe was. Well, the same thing happens when you walk backwards. Everything's kind of reversed. You still get your primary impact point is now your toe. You still get a foot roll, but then you'll have what we call a heel drag, because they're walking backwards. And you can't just walk backwards normally, so people obviously tend to look over their shoulder, and which creates their straddle and their stride to be, dramatically irregular. So it's an easy way to tell. People think they're fooling you or whatever, but if you know a bit about tracking, somebody walking backwards is very, very easy to pick up. Also, some anti-tracking maneuvers. See if I can do this for you guys. Alright, so all I did here was grab some, sorry about the hand there. So I grabbed just some pine boughs right here. And people try to cover up their footprints as well, so you can't see them. So let me see if I can shake this out for you guys. So I got a couple footprints here, and you could walk backwards and try to, pat these out a little bit, so you can't get an actual footprint. And you'd keep doing that as you walk backwards, obviously. So if you guys can see that, let me back up. See what the same thing you're looking at is. Alright, so pretty much the footprint's gone. You can't really see it now. But this is what we call disturbance. Obviously you can't see a footprint, but if you look all around that area, nothing else looks like that. So it's unnatural. I mean, if you look off to the left over here, the snow is all perfect. And then in here, you got all these brush marks. So you can't necessarily see a footprint, but you would see this path of disturbance the whole way this person has walked. And I mean, there's different ways to do that. Some people have been known to like drag a piece of material behind them, like a seat cushion and things like that. And yeah, you can't get a good track on them as far as the pattern of their sole and, you know, their stride and all the things that you're looking for. But it leaves, you know, a pronounced trail because it's unnatural to what everything else that's around it. So it's just a couple anti-tracking tips for you guys. Not really sure what else to share as far as the tracking. Obviously the anti-tracking doesn't apply to animals. They're not going to be doing that on you. But same thing applies in the different mediums, which is just the surface, the ground surface that you're walking on. You know, different types, be it rock, sand, regular dirt, mud, grass, whatever. I did quite a bit of it. It was a great course that I went to. I learned an absolute ton from it. But again, it's a perishable skill. It's something that you need to practice, you know, after you learn it. With grass, the footprints or the trail, it tends to leave a blaze in it. And depending on the angle of the sun and all that stuff, determines, you know, how good you can see it. Same thing in any different types of mediums. I've tracked people and, you know, over rocks and stuff like that, and you have really no footprints to go by. Maybe here and there throughout the whole track line you might find a partial print, but again, it's just different techniques in the different mediums that you look for. Like a rock, for instance, you know, you tend to kick them and stuff like that when you're walking, so underneath the rock could be wet, you know. Then when they kick one over, all these things, you know, if you're trained and you practice this stuff, they tend to jump right out at you like, hey, that's not natural. Everything around here is dry. You might be able to see the hole that the rock come out of. You know, the underneath of the rock is wet now, obviously. Everything else is dry. So again, there's a lot that goes into this. Figured I'd cover just some of the basics. Again, this one obviously applied to people, but as far as animals go, you can pattern them to a point because there's certain things, you know, that we all need. You know, humans, animals alike. We all need shelter. We all need food. We all need water, and that's the main three things. So if you can find a food or a water source, or a bedding area, a den, a lair, something like that, you can track different types of animals. I know whitetails a prime for running on what we call shelves. If you have hills in your area, they're not going to run on top of the hill more often than not. I mean, they will, but they'll run in the middle of that on what we call a shelf. That's a good place to track them, you know, to and from bedding areas, feeding areas, stuff like that. Also, another good one, something that we all need as well. Those were the three primaries, but a fourth one is companionship. Obviously, animals need to reproduce, so just an example on that. Again, a whitetail. So if you're hunting deer, you know, if you can find the females, all the does and the fawns, and where they're feeding, at some point you're going to run into that buck because they need to mate, they need that companionship. So to and from the feeding and bedding areas are good places to do that. So all this, again, you can apply to animals. Again, also they're a lot more unpredictable than humans are. Humans very easy to track. Even if you get a skilled person that knows of tracking, that tries to apply some anti-tracking techniques, it's stuff that you can pick up, you know, if you're trained to do it, obviously. So that's it on the tracking video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any other ideas for videos, something else, I'll try to put a couple more out and explain a little bit more, you know, in like a classroom type setting, maybe with the whiteboard, and go over some terminology and stuff like that with you guys, so you can get more of the basics down. But I'll be teaching this class, a familiarization. It'll be more in depth with some practical exercises at my winter skills class coming up here in a couple weeks. So any of you guys that are attending that, I think you'll enjoy it. It'll be a lot more in depth than this. And again, it'll just be a familiarization though, because there's so much involved in tracking.